If ChatGPT took human form. Hi everyone, I'm Jacob, I'm the Cowhat Librarian, and I've got something tonight that I didn't know was coming. When I prepared my Looking Ahead 2023 video, I searched for a bunch of my favorite authors and things that were coming out that I was looking forward to, and somehow I neglected to search for Gordon Korman. And that's a real shame because this was a good one. It's the Superteacher Project. Now, there's a school and a new teacher shows up, Mr. Adact. He's oddly a teacher who's serving as a mentor to a student teacher, Mr. Perkins, who follows him around all day. And it's odd because Mr. Perkins is significantly older than Mr. Adact. And students gradually get to know him, and in odd ways. Oliver, one of the class cut-ups and prankster extraordinaire, decided to welcome Mr. Adact to the school with a quality, one-of-a-kind spitball. Mr. Adact turned and caught the spitball in midair before it could squelch on his head. That's impossible. No one could do that. Well, there's a reason. As it turns out, Mr. Adact is part of a project designed to make an AI-controlled robot that could serve as a teacher. And the principal and the other teachers in the school are all in on it. And Mr. Perkins, the erstwhile student teacher, well, he's actually a technician who keeps Mr. Adact in top performance. So as the story goes on, Mr. Adact learns more and more about how things work at school and learns from his students, and they gradually get to know him as well. And he has an interesting effect on some of them. Oliver is upset because he can never nail Mr. Adact, no matter how hard he tries. Steinke and Newhouse, who hates everything and is oppositional on general principles, loves this guy because Mr. Adact actually pronounces his name properly instead of calling him Stinky. And Rosalie isn't quite sure what to make of him, but she knows she's uncomfortable that her mom seems to have developed a crush on him. Well, in the course of things, the teachers get used to having Mr. Adact around, and they start taking advantage of things. You need someone to go monitor the bus stop on a rainy day? Send Mr. Adact. He won't complain. You need someone to monitor detention? Send Mr. Adact. He won't mind at all. You need someone to take over as coach of the girls' field hockey team? Not a problem. Well, actually a small problem. You see, Mr. Adact, as an AI, knows all the rules of field hockey and knows the theory of being a coach and can teach his team all sorts of diagrams and theories about play, but isn't very good at imparting how it plays in practice. And so when they play their first game, the team is getting absolutely dominated by their opposition. But midway through the game, the referee calls a foul on one of Mr. Adact's students, and he starts protesting because the rule clearly states that such and such is a foul, and he was able to determine, though he can't say this publicly, that his player's stick was more than 3-point-something millimeters away from making contact. There was no foul, and he argues the point and argues the point, knowing that he's absolutely perfectly technically correct until he's thrown out of the game. And he heads off in a bit of a huff and ends up cheering for his team from the top of a school bus parked nearby. They are impressed. The girls love that he went to bat for them, that he was willing to believe in them, that he was willing to fight for them, and they start playing their hearts out. And they win, improbably. And they keep winning. And they love Mr. Adact. But he's getting that from other places too. As an AI, he's a trivia master. he has access to the whole internet's worth of trivia, so no one is able to stump him on trivia or song lyrics or raps or anything else. And soon he's got a group of followers joining him in detention each day so they can play Stump Mr. Adek and try to come up with something he doesn't know. Meanwhile, Oliver and his friend Nathan are making plans because there's a school dance coming up for Halloween, and they decide that they are going to be legendary rule breakers. Earlier in the year, there was a bit of a kerfuffle because there was this weird outdated rule in the school handbook that no one may ride a big wheel down the hallway in the school. And it seems to have been a holdover from when the school was an elementary school, and the PTA is talking to the school to get rid of it. But Oliver decides he's got to break this rule and it needs to be on camera. So he and Nathan dress up in double costumes for the party, with old, not super well-fitting costumes underneath and Grim Reaper costumes over top. And they sneak out from the party and record themselves rolling this big wheel down the hall and post it to a student chat thing to prove that someone broke this rule. Well, Mr. Adek figures it out because he could tell from the composition of the costumes and stuff from the video when he analyzed it. Now, Nathan and Oliver get detentions for it, but they realize that it's pretty fair and that honestly, things could have gone much harder on them. And things escalate from there. Nathan and Oliver decide they want to know more about Mr. Adek, and so they follow him home one day and discover that he and Mr. Perkins live together, and they see Mr. Perkins working on maintaining him, and they learn he's a robot. And gradually the word gets out, because in passing they end up telling Rosalie, who, when her mom is falling in love with Mr. Adek, blurts out to her, "No, you can't, he's a robot." And subsequently the whole thing grows into a huge mess, and they have to figure out what to do with things and how they can avoid having Mr. Adek be shut down permanently. It was great. It felt like classic Korman from front to end. It felt like an all-star compilation of his best stuff. Oliver and Nathan feel like the second coming of Bruno and Boots, to be honest. You have Oliver railing against injustice and wanting to be a legend and sure that people are going to follow him, and Nathan being the cautious, quieter, politer one who tries to talk Oliver out of his worst ideas. You have the equivalent of the blabbermouth character showing up, who's convinced he's, the most popular person in school and that everyone wants him involved, and who spreads news about everything the minute he hears about it. There's the great element of the team rallying around a teacher who's on their side, which felt a lot like how things went for Mr. Kermit in The Unteachables. There's just various elements from classic Korman stuff in here. And it felt, at first, it felt a lot like a major revamp of Beware of the Fish, because there was this experiment happening that was being kept secret from some people, and stuff got buried in a sand pit. There was someone writing reports and submitting expense claims in the background, and it was a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. If you like classic Korman, you'll like this. I appreciated that he kept the points of view a little more constrained than he has in some of his more recent stuff, and so that was an added bonus. What's more, it's an incredibly timely book with the rise of ChatGPT and its various successors and competitors. When we're at a time when people can submit a writing prompt and have a full-blown essay written for them, or use this chatbot to create lesson plans, and when people are having to plan how to recognize AI written works and how to deal with them, this was incredibly timely. It feels like Korman started writing it last week, to be honest. And it's incredible to think that he's probably been writing this story for a few years. It was wonderful. I highly recommend it. With that said, though, there are spoilers ahead, and I have to talk about the deal breaker. The deal breaker is simply this. Oliver likes causing trouble and playing pranks and shooting spitballs. And the idea of riding a big wheel down the main hallway and filming it when it's officially against the rules, that's funny and it was clever. But he got it into his head to talk with Nathan about whether he was technically breaking the rule by being pushed down the hallway instead of pedaling himself. And this struck me as the silliest thing ever. He's trying to break rules. Does he really think that if he's not pedaling, he won't technically have broken the rules and his principal would be just fine with it? Or for that matter, does he think that riding implies that he has to be pedaling? I ride in a car and I don't pedal it. I ride it when I'm not driving it. I ride on a sled. All it does is coast. You sure as heck can ride on a big wheel without pedaling it if someone pushes you. So he was wrong on the language front, and he was wrong on the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law front. It felt really weird for someone so big on breaking rules and playing pranks and not caring about this sort of thing to be concerned about minutia like that. It was really out of place, and for a moment it took me right out of the story. I wasn't engrossed with their prank and how they were going to pull it off and what happened. I was busy thinking about how silly Oliver was and how this was completely against his character. Still, that was my biggest complaint. The rest was gold. You see, as the story goes on, things ramp up. The field hockey team is doing amazing with Mr. Adek as their coach, and their principal of their school happens to have been on the field hockey team the last time their team won the championship. And there's an enormous trophy in the hallway from that championship that she's extremely proud of. Well, in the course of things, Oliver and Nathan end up having that trophy broken, and they're responsible for it, and they end up burying the pieces in the sand pit, which again was a fun callback to that being done in Beware of the Fish. As word gets out about Mr. Adek and what he really is, there's plans for him to be shut down, and the kids figure out one last trick to get him out of there before he's shut down, to help him escape from Mr. Perkins and the government. The only thing is, he made a promise that he would not abandon his team, that he plans on being at the final game of the season, the championship game, and he will not leave until it's over. So Oliver and Nathan and Rosalie and Stinky have to find a way for him to be at the game, for the game to end, and to plan a safe getaway for Mr. Adek so he can flee. It was great. It was fantastic. It was a neat shift to see it change from, a pranky, high school-y AI story to a bit of a heist feeling at the end. I don't want to spoil the details, but the ending was fun. I liked how it ended, and I liked the implications of it. And I liked these characters. I would love it if Korman would return to this school. Like I said, Oliver and Nathan felt like the second coming of Bruno and Boots. Bruno and Boots got 6 books, I believe. Give Oliver and Nathan another one. Give Rosalie and Stanky and their principal another one. I think you could do some great stuff with them, Mr. Korman. With that, thanks for listening to me carry on about Gordon Korman's latest work. I highly recommend you borrow it from your local public library. And if you use and appreciate the services offered by your local public library, why not take just a minute and tell the powers that be exactly that? Tell your MP, tell an MLA, tell your councillor or your mayor that you value the services that your local public library offers. We're at a time where some public libraries are having trouble finding the sustainable funding they need to continue improving the services that we value so much. And a few good words in the right ears might make a world of difference. And if by some chance you're a library staff member watching this, don't forget, watching my videos counts as professional development time. With that, thanks for watching. By all means, please like, please subscribe, and please check back and see what else I have to talk about from the Cow Hat Library. Thank you. Bye now.